Hi, this is Miss Cairo. This is lesson 2-8, rounding and estimating with decimals. And for this lesson, what you will need is your activity book. You're going to need your whiteboard and expo marker, as well as your place value chart. And then most importantly, we are going to be taking quite a bit of notes. So you are going to need your math notebook out. And like I said, we are going to be taking notes. Okay, so gather those materials. And just to start us off, I'd just like you to watch and follow along with the screen. So we're going to be using the words round and estimate quite a bit in the next few days. And with estimating, we'll write this into our notes in a little bit, but estimating means that we're getting, finding an answer that's close enough to the exact answer. And we are working with decimals here, so we are going to relate this back to real world situation soon. For example, say you're in the store and you have X amount of money and you're looking at some things to buy, you would maybe do some quick estimation in your head in order to figure out if you have enough to purchase certain items. Okay, so this can all relate back to real world situations. And yeah, just to get us started off, I wanted to give you some visuals of rounding certain numbers to certain place values with number lines. And you'll just watch me do it along with and follow along with me. If you would like to do this on your whiteboard, you're welcome to do that. But again, I just want you to start thinking and start visualizing first. And then we're going to get into some rules about rounding, in which you might remember from previous grades. Okay, so this number I have here with this first number line is 2 3/10. And I'm going to ask you to round 2 3/10 to the nearest whole number. And if I were to do that with a number line, here's what I would do. I would look at the whole number 2, and I would place 2 on this side of the number line. And I know that these little tally marks or little lines can be filled in soon with different values. But on the other side, I'm going to put the next whole number after 2, which is 3. Okay, so 2 3/10 is somewhere between 2 and 3. The whole number is 2 and 3. But which number is it closest to? 2 or 3 wholes? Which number do you think it's closest to? Go ahead and point with your finger, 2 or 3. Okay, and where would you place 2 3/10 on this number line? Well, I have tally marks here, and each of these tally marks represents a different value. So take a look at the tally marks. How many are there? First of all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This number line is split up into 10 pieces, and between 2 and 3, I can be labeling in tenths then to demonstrate what each little line is worth. So if I'm one piece out of a total of 10 would give me 1/10. So 2 would stay in our whole number, and then decimal, and one piece out of a total of 10. Okay. And if I were to keep going, I would have 2/10 here. 2 3/10 here. Sorry, that's a 2. And then I would 2 4/10 and 2 5/10. I'll go ahead and label that. So again, go ahead and point your finger. Where's 2 3/10 on this number line? And I'm going to put a star by it. Did you say it was right here? Good. Is this star closest to 2 or closer to 3? It is closer to 2 wholes. So I would say, based on this number line, that 2 3/10 rounded to the nearest whole is rounded to 2. Let's keep going. 2 37/100 is the number, and I'm wondering, should we round 2 3/10 to the nearest tenth then? And based on that question, let's label this number line. So again, I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, so I'm looking at 2 3/10. And then there's a digit in the hundredths place value. So on this side of the number line, I'm going to label it 2 3/10. And on the very other end, the next tenth up is 2 4/10. And I'm wondering, is 2 37/100 closest to 2 3/10 or closer to 2 4/10? Well, we can do some labeling and we can actually place this number on our number line. Well, where would we place it? Again, this number line split up into 10 pieces, and I can label each of these pieces. So if I start with 2 3/10 here, I can continue and say that this spot then is 2 31/100ths. And I would keep labeling 2 32/100ths, 2 33/100ths, 2 34/100ths, 2 35/100ths. That's right in the middle. Oops. 2 35/100ths. That's a decimal and that's a 2. 2 36/100ths, 2 37/100ths. Here we are. 2 37/100ths, if I were to put this on this number line, would be located right here. Is that closer to 2 3/10ths or closer to 2 4/10ths? Closer to 2 4/10ths. So I would say if I were to round 2 37/100ths to the closest tenth, it would be rounded to 2 4/10ths. And then let's keep going. Let's take a look at this number, 2 376,000ths. Let's round this to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so I'm looking at these digits here and I'm seeing that 7 is in our is the digit that's in our hundredths place. So I'm going to rewrite this number all the way to my hundredths place, 2 37/100ths. And the next hundredths place value over one, basically if I were to increase this by 100th would be 2 38/100ths. Where do I place 2 376/100ths on this number line? Again, it's split up into 10 pieces. What I would do is I just keep on increasing the digit in the thousandths place value until I reach 2 38/100ths, or another way to look at it is 2 380,000ths. So again, 2 371,000ths, and then let's keep going. 232 372,000ths, 2 373,000ths, and so on. I would know halfway in between is 2 and, how do you say this number out loud? 375,000ths. And then my next one would be 2 376,000ths. I'm going to put a star there. Is this number 200? Sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted here. 2 376,000ths. Is that closer to 2 37/100ths or closer to 2 38/100ths? Yeah, it's closer to 2 38/100ths. So if I were to round this to the nearest hundredths place, I would say it's closer to 2 38/100ths. Okay. So what I want you to realize as we're looking at this is that we're always looking at the digit in which we're rounding to, and we're either saying it's staying the same, okay, or it might need to be increased up by 1, depending on where it lies in between those two numbers. Okay, so thanks for following along with me. Let's take some notes. And there's quite a few rules with rounding. So not always are you going to have to draw. I drew out these number lines before I started the video. It took me some time. Okay. And same with drawing out and asking ourselves and labeling. That takes some time. There's an easier way of doing this. This is a great visualization, but there's easier rules to follow when you're going to be rounding in the next few days with decimals. Okay. So go ahead and get your notes ready. Open up to the next page or next skip down a line, and we are going to create what we call in class is an anchor chart. But in your case, it's just going to be right into your notebook, and we're going to refer back to this quite a bit. So make sure it's nice and neat and make sure yours looks similar to mine. Okay. All right, go ahead and you can mark today's date, and the lesson is 2-8 if you like to label it that way. And we're going to take notes on rounding. And I have a rounding poem for you in which the lines do rhyme. And this is, there's 4 lines to this. We're going to repeat it over and over quite a bit for the next few days so that you have it memorized in your head and so that you're able to refer back to quite a bit whenever you are rounding. Okay, so again, this is a rhyming poem, so I'm going to color code it. Oh, maybe I can't. Hold on one second. Okay, yeah, I am going to color code it. So go ahead and label it rounding. In the next line, we're going to write the first line of the poem. We're going to underline. So the process for rounding, we're going to underline. I so apologize. Okay, so underline your place. Look next door is the first line. And have this be on one line in your notebook, just like mine is. Underline your place, look next door, repeat that after me. Go ahead and have that entered into your notebook. And then the next line is 5 or greater, add 1 more. 5 or greater, add 1 more. Okay, so far we have underline your place, look next door, 5 or greater, add 1 more. The next line is numbers in the front stay the same. Numbers behind zeros their name. And that is our rhyme. So go ahead and copy that down. It should be taking up a line in your binder paper for each line. So 4 total lines. And I'm going to repeat it a bunch of times so it gets stuck in your head, and repeat with me, okay? So underline your place, look next door, 5 or greater, add 1 more. Numbers in the front stay the same. Numbers behind, zeros their name. And let's use this rule to go along with some examples, okay? So in your book, once you have this all down, and if you need to pause, go ahead and do that, but you should hopefully have it all down by now. Let's put an example in our book. So let's use the number 2 and 376 thousandths. Okay, rounding this number, let's round it to the nearest whole. So again, this is in your notebook. Copy this with me. Nearest whole number. Let's round to the nearest whole. So we're going to rewrite this number, 2 and 376 thousandths. Remember, whole number is any of the digits to the left of the decimal. So I have the decimal here. These numbers to the right, those are decimal numbers. To the left, over on this side, are whole numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to underline the whole number. And the whole number here is just the digit 2. So please underline the 2. And then our poem says, so we underline the place. That's what we're rounding to. It says, look next door. We're going to always be looking to the right. So you're constantly going to be drawing arrows to the right. And next door to 2 is the digit 3. It's in the 10th place. And we're going to circle this number. Let's go ahead and circle the 3. That's in the 10th place. That's next door to 2. And we're asking ourselves some questions about this number 3. Is 3 5 or more, or 4 or less, or 5 or more? 3 is less than 5, so it's 4 or less. And it says if it was 5 or greater, we were going to add 1 more. Is 3 greater than 5? No. So the rule is if it's not greater than 5, it just stays the same. So 2 is going to stay the same since the number next door is not 5 or more. It's less than 5. So to the nearest whole number estimated is 2. All right. Let's keep going. Let's round to 2 other place values. So to the nearest now, let's do to the nearest 10th. Go ahead and write out nearest 10th, and let's use the same number. This should be all in your notes, nice and neat, because you can refer back to this at any time. So nearest 10th. Let's rewrite the number 2 and 376 thousandths. And let's follow the rules that go along with our poem. So the nearest 10th, we're going to underline the digit that's in the 10th place that it's asking us to. What digit is in the 10th place? The 3. It's right after the decimal. Go ahead and underline the 3. The next step is we're looking next door. We're always looking to the right. So we're going to underline 3 and then draw an arrow right next door to the right of it. And right next door is the number 7. So we're going to circle this number 7. We're going to ask ourselves a question. Is it 5 or more? Is 7 5 or more? Yes, 7 is greater than 5. So we're going to add 1 more. Well, where are we adding 1 more to? We're rounding to the nearest 10th. So these numbers are going to be dropped. We're going to increase this number 3 that's in our 10th place by 1 more. 2 and 4 tenths. Do you see how I added 1, 2, 3? That's because it's in the 10th place and because 7 is 5 or more. And then remember, numbers in the front stay the same. So the 2 stays the same. We don't need to do anything to that. I'm going to rewrite it. And then numbers behind zeros their name. Okay, so I just rewrote it. The digits that's in the 10th spot and these numbers become 0. I don't need to rewrite them out because they don't hold any value. All right, and then the last place value that we're going to do is the nearest hundredth. I'm going to work up here since I'm running out of room, but again, continue into your notes, nice and neat. Nearest hundredth. Go ahead and write that out. Nearest hundredth. Ooh. Hopefully yours is much neater than mine. The nearest hundredth. Let me fix that a little. And let's rewrite out the same number, 2 and 376 thousandths. Nearest hundredth, let's underline the digit that's in the hundredths place value. So this is in the ones, this is in the tenths, 7 is in the hundredths. Underline 7. We're going to look next door. So we're going to draw an arrow to the right, and we're looking at the number 6. And we have a question to ask about the number 6. So go ahead and circle it. Is 6 5 or greater? Yes. And since it's greater, we're going to add 1 more. What are we adding 1 more to? Well, we're adding 1 more to the digit that's in the hundredths place value. So we're mostly concerned with this digit here, the 7. So we're going to increase it from 7 hundredths to 8 hundredths. And then the rule is numbers in the front stay the same. So the numbers before 7, 2 and 3 tenths, that stays the same. But we are going to change something here. Since 6 is greater than 5, we are going to increase 7 by 1. And 1 more than 7 is 8. And then numbers behind zeros their game. So zeros their name. So again, anytime I add zeros, it won't change the value. I can just drop the zero since it's after the decimal that does not have any value. And 2 and 376 thousandths rounded to the nearest hundredth is 2 and 38 hundredths. Did you notice anything about these numbers that we just worked with? These were the same numbers that I was using with our number lines. Okay, so we already used this. That 2 and 3 tenths was rounded to the nearest whole was 2. Yep. 2 and 376 thousandths. We said rounded to the nearest tenth is 2 and 4 tenths. Yep. And 2 and 376 thousandths rounded to the nearest hundredth, 2 and 38 hundredths. Yep, that's what I rounded to. So basically, we just rounded in 2 different ways using number lines as well as following this poem-like rule. And this is something that you're going to refer to often in your notes. So I hope you wrote nice and neat, and I hope you have these examples here. We took one number and we rounded it to 3 different place values, okay? I like this poem because it does rhyme. We're going to repeat it one more time together, but it's not as detailed as I wish it would be. So we're going to add a little more details to our notes, especially like where is next door? Well, it's to the right of it. And 5 or greater, add 1 more. Well, what if it's 5 or less? There's a little rule that goes along with that too, okay? So let's repeat this one more time. So go ahead and say it with me, rounding. Underline your place, look next door. 5 or greater, add 1 more. Numbers in the front stay the same. Numbers behind, zeros there, name. Okay, and we're going to repeat often. And again, I wish this was a little more detailed. So we have the time. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's add some more details to our notes. This is going to be written in a very similar manner, but again, just rules that have a little more details to it. So I like that place value poem because it's rhymey and it's easy to memorize. This one, these will be more detailed for us to refer back to quite a bit. Okay, so go ahead and skip a few lines, or just one line is fine. And let's label this steps for rounding. And here are more detailed steps for rounding. So first we're going to underline the digit and the place value that you are rounding to. So that's number 1, first step. Number 2, you're going to draw an arrow to the number to the right of the underlined number. And then I'd like you to continue to circle. So circle that number. That's the next step, step number 3. Step number 4, ask yourself, is the number 4 or less or 5 or more? If the number is 4 or less, you're going to keep the digit and the place value the same. Or let's say this, keep the underlined digit. Keep the underlined digit the same. The numbers, if the number is 5 or more, increase the underlined digit by 1. So add 1. And then same lines, the step 7 and 8, I'm going to keep those same 2 lines the same that were the ending to our poem. So numbers in the front. So the numbers in front of the underlined digit stay the same. Step number 8, numbers and numbers behind. Zeros their name. Okay, that's quite a bit of notes. So there's 8 steps now that I wanted to be much more detailed in that poem. So go ahead, and if you need to pause, go ahead and pause. If not, that is the end of our video, and we're going to do lots of practice with this. And again, we're going to relate back to this to money and to real life situations. Today, we're just going to be estimating numbers. Tomorrow, we're going to be using addition and subtraction problems and quickly rounding and then estimating their sums or differences. Thank you for watching. Great job.